What's up, y'all? We want to welcome you back to the Elevate podcast. My name is Kevin, and I'm here with my good friend, one of my best friends, Joseph Santos.
What's happening? How you doing, Kev?
I'm good, bro. You like that intro, right?
That's much better, man.
Look. I think it's so good now because last week we kind of talked about like all the stuff we went through as friends. Kind of had a little emotional moment or whatever, right? And we ended with like, you know what? We're each other's like one of each other's best friends.
No, it's good. And now look at that intro. Nice, smooth.
So nice.
You know, it has a good ring to it. You know, best friend. What's up, bro? Let's go.
Bro, there's growth, man. There's a lot of growth in this whole process. So this is dope.
Definitely, man.
But hey, bro, how you doing, man?
I'm good, bro. It was a busy weekend.
Super busy.
Super busy. I preached this last Sabbath. So it was good, and then we had a great moment Saturday night with the worship night where, you know, the high schoolers from the walk came with the youth from La Mesa, and man, that was a great night just to be a part of their worship night and just experience that. It was amazing.
I definitely think it was a powerful moment. For those of you who don't know, right, we here down at my church at La Mesa, we had a youth worship night, and we partnered up with Crosswalk. Their high school ministry came down the walk, and it was powerful to see, right? Like, I think we walked away just thinking, like, man, we're so proud of our kids.
Dude, it was such a proud moment, right? Because, like, you see them grow, right? And it's that process. And, like, these are the kids that we first started off working with. And just to see them grow in the aspect of worship and how they praise was such an amazing feeling.
Not just that, but I think the other thing that I walked away thinking was, bro, we're making a difference.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, I know that too, but I don't like saying that. You know, I kind of just keep that to myself, and like I know that's how that God is working through us.
And you know, it's not to like, you know, puff each other up or like take, you know, or to be prideful of it, but it's just like I see what God's doing, and I'm like, dude, let's do it again. I'm like, God, come on, let's go.
Yeah, we definitely have to.
Yeah, so stay tuned, Elevate Nation. We're gonna see what we can do in the future. But bro, you know what? We got our first negative review, or it wasn't even a review.
It wasn't a review, bro.
We got our first ever dislike.
Kevin was so mad.
We got a thumbs down on YouTube, bro.
He was so mad. He's like, what? How is it possible they gave us a thumbs down? Kevin, maybe they just didn't like the podcast, bro.
No, bro, I have a theory.
Okay,
I have a theory. So, why are you laughing, man? You don't even, you gotta wait. All right, so here's the thing. So I'm convinced that the reason why we got a thumbs down is because at some point I made this joke about how I'm not a true Adventist.
But you're not.
All right, calm down, bro. Now, you know what, Elevate Nation, I am a believer. I love Adventism. I love what this church is about.
Oh, yeah, what are the 5 S's, bro? Go.
Do you know what the 5 S's are?
I do know what the 5 S's are.
Let's go.
Okay.
We got Sabbath.
All right, sanctuary,
State of the Dead.
Spirit of prophecy.
I was about to say that one. And
what's the last one, Kevin?
Second coming.
Oh, there you
go. Let's go.
All right, I guess you passed the test.
Yep, Theology 101 with Pastor Joseph and Pastor Kevin.
Exactly. If they ever ask you, that's how you answer them.
Like, that's how you know how much you have in this.
There you go.
Oh, man. But hey, you know what? We're doing what we're doing for a reason, you know?
Definitely.
And at the end of the day, like, you know, we appreciate the constructive criticism. Even if you don't like us, you know what? We're still going to do this podcast anyway. We love doing this, and we know that, you know, we've gotten some good feedback too, you know, amidst that one bad review.
Kevin, it was just one. It's okay, bro. It's not the end of the world. It's going to happen. It's a big world. You think everybody's going to like us?
Hey, I want the world to love our podcast, man.
Okay.
I believe in what we're doing, all right?
Yeah, I do too, but expectations, bro, reality.
Expectations versus reality.
We talked about this.
Yeah. But hey, man, you know, I know we have a lot to talk about. I know that this is a heavier podcast, but I know that this is one that kind of it's kind of close to the belt that we're going to talk about.
Yeah, and today we're going to be talking about dealing with your ish.
Dealing with your ish.
Man. See, just saying that.
Right, it's like, oh, dang, man, we're really getting into it right now.
You know, like how do you deal with, you know, stuff that goes on to your life, Kevin, that, you know, may have a negative effect on you?
Oh, man. Okay, so so obviously there are two ways to go about dealing with whatever you can deal with, right? You can deal with it in a positive way, or you can deal with it in a very unhealthy and toxic negative way. I think in the negative ways, I would say I hold it in sometimes. And
Okay.
you know what's interesting, because I usually don't hold things in. I'm not to say that I'm an open book, right? But I do confide in a certain amount of people. But sometimes, honestly, like I don't want to burden people
Your
with
problems.
with my problems, and so like I'll hold it in. I'll probably just end up laying on the couch the whole day watching Smallville or something,
Oh man,
you know,
you got a
and
problem.
yeah, I think the big thing is like I just stay at home all day and I get like no sunlight and I'm just like there in the dark in my
So you're
feels.
how's this rainy season treating you then?
You know, it makes it even worse because you know, as much as I love the rain, like it gets you in your feels. I don't know what it is, but it really makes you feel some type of way. So I don't know, man. It's not great. There are better ways, but I know it takes time to get out of funks.
Yeah, it does. For me, I'm a little bit different. I go to 7-Eleven. I get a bag of Takis. I get a roll of sweet tarts,
Yep.
and then I play video
Play
games.
video games, and then you ask me to go with you sometimes.
Yes, and then that's how I deal with it.
But you know what's interesting? So something interesting happened the other day. What was it? I think it was like 2 days ago, where like I walked into your room, and like I know you were dealing with some stuff, and I'm like, "Hey, you good, bro? You want to talk about it?" And you were like, "No." I was like, "You sure? I'm here for you." No, go away, Kevin. And I was like,
I appreciate it. Don't get me wrong, and I appreciate that you do that, right? But it's so funny when you come to the door, right? And you're just like giving me this look, and you're like, Joseph, I'm here, and I'm expecting you to open up, and but you know what I'm gonna tell you, like you already know that I'm gonna be like, Kevin, get out of my room.
"Hey, bro, I at least gotta try, man. I at
No,
least gotta."
I appreciate it. Maybe one of these days I'll just actually just tell you.
But you know, what I find even funnier is like the moments where I don't ask. That's when you actually like start opening up. You gotta admit, like today in the car, like I don't know what it was. Like it was addressing the same thing, but
It's
I
just you got to give me time to process it, right? I think that's the biggest thing. Some different people process everything in different ways. And I know that's like for me, it definitely takes a couple of days. Like I go through, my emotions. I go through, thinking of it in a very, logical way, right? And then at the end, once I feel like I have a good sense of where I need to be at, right? Then I'm like, okay, now I can talk about it. But I spend those days just thinking, and I'm like, okay, this, that, right? And how do I go about it, right? And I think that's the hardest part. But the thing is, the problem is many times people have different ways of processing, and we don't know how to address them, how to talk to them, how to do it. Like me, I will usually never be like open up like right away, right? Like something bad could have happened, right? And it will take me a couple days, and it may frustrate people, and it does frustrate people because they just want me to tell them. But I'm like, I like in my head, like I need to go through everything, and then for me to be able to like be okay. And now when I let it out and I talk it out, then I'm like, okay, let's go next step, right? Let's move on.
yeah. No, and I've seen it too, right? There are those moments where I know like you got something on your mind because you're like super quiet. You know, you'll just like walk into the kitchen and you don't even say anything. You'll just like walk in and then you go back like to your room, and that's when I know I'm like, all right, I gotta leave this guy alone.
It's not even that. I'm just thinking, dude. Like I just get into this very deep thoughtful place, right? And a lot of things go on in my head. Is like number one, I pray a lot, right? And I'm thinking, I'm asking God, I'm like, okay, God, like what's next? Like what are you doing? Like, and even within all of that, I'm having this conversation of like, hey God, like, okay, what's happening here? What's up? And I want to know. And then I think about, the steps and the process and how I got there. So it's different, right?
Yeah.
Especially different than the way you do it, and you go through your things.
Yeah, I definitely feel like in my case, really what I need to talk about it.
Yeah, you do.
Because my thing is, I'm not the kind of person that can like hold it all in. It makes me feel anxious and it makes me feel overwhelmed when I feel like I have to carry the whole weight on my own. And it's not to say that I expect anyone to help me in any way. I just need to like let it out.
Yeah, and I think we have had moments where I'm like, where you just talk.
Yeah.
And I just let you. I'm like, all right, go off, bro. Like, and I'm just literally there just to listen.
Yeah. No, and honestly, like that definitely alleviates, it takes the pain or it takes the weight off my shoulders. I don't know how to describe it. It just feels nice to say, like, you know what, someone else knows what's going on, and that's enough. But I know it's not always the case. And, the reason why I bring this up is because here at La Mesa, we've been going through this emotionally healthy spirituality course with our members. And this last week, we talked about loss and grief and whatnot, and defense mechanisms that we end up setting up that stops us from actually being able to deal with our ish, right? And so these are some of the things that actually really stood out to me. Is some of the common defenses that we have are denial, right? Yep. It's like, no, when someone asks like, hey, what are you dealing with? And it's like, oh, no, I'm good. I'm good, right? Good. The typical like, yeah, I'm good.
Don't worry about me.
Yeah. The other one's like minimizing. And I feel like I do this one a lot. Mm-hmm. And I feel like a lot of people do too, is you look at your situation, you're like, you know what? It's not that bad. I'm not as bad as that other person who's probably going through so much worse than I am.
Yeah. And I think that's a dangerous place, right? Because we cannot compare what we're feeling with other people's, right? Because the way we deal with things, they may be going through a hard time, but so are we. Yeah. Our hard times are different. What makes us think that our hard times are on the same scale?
Yeah. And also I would say is we can't invalidate, right, our own grief or our own ish compared to someone else's, because everyone is at a different stage, right? You can't judge someone's chapter 33 when you're on chapter 5 in your own like thought process of your life and whatnot.
Yeah. No, definitely. I think for me, it's more denial, right? Like, and you know that, like, I'm definitely more of the guy like, no, I'm okay, right? And I'm going to say everybody, because that's how I was built. That's how I saw, right? That's how I learned from my parents, right? Going all the way down to my uncles, like, especially growing up in a Latino family, right? You like that, huh?
I like that.
Latino. We had this conversation today about Hispanics versus Latinos, and like Mexican American and Chicano and everything.
Everything.
And we're just like, man, finally Latino, and now Latinx, right?
Well, that's a conversation for another day.
But yeah, and I'm like, I was always taught that, you just say, no, you're okay. And you move on and you push forward and you move through. Right. And that's why denial has always been a thing. I need to be that strong person that everybody sees that, has they can rely on always.
Yeah. And I think, and that's one of them, right? Denial is definitely a big one that I feel like some people do, is just like, no, I'm okay. Right. And I feel like it's just a lie that we tell ourselves simply to help us get through it. But instead of actually getting through it, I think what we're just doing is we're prolonging the inevitable.
Yeah.
We're prolonging what we're actually going through. And that's just one of them, right? But here are some of the others that I find really interesting is you blame others or you blame God for what you're going through.
Blaming God.
Right.
We've all been there before.
In conversations we have, right? I'm like, dude, come on, like just... like throw your brother a bone. Like, come on, help me out, please. In my own situation.
I think we do that, bro, because we look at it, right, and we know that we can trust in God, right? But here's the thing: like, I trust God, but do I really trust Him?
Yeah. No, and man, I love that you said that, because a lot of people, and I think this is where the over spiritualization thing comes into it. And some people say like, all you have to do is just have faith. And in my mind, right now where I'm at personally, in the stuff that I'm going through, I'm thinking like, yeah, you know what? All I have to do is trust God. But dang, all I have to do is trust God.
And that's scary.
That's terrifying.
It's scary, bro, right? And the same goes with me, right? Like, just trust in Him. And I do trust in Him, but then but deep down, right, in the back, you're like, but do I really? Do I really? Like I know He's watching out. And this is where humanity, we start going a little bit wrong, right? Because we think that we know he's there, but sometimes, we're like, is he really looking out for my best interests? And that's hard, right? But the thing is, you're right. All I have to do is have faith. So why is it so hard to have that he's going to help me in these times, right?
Well, and here's where the conversation of over spiritualization comes in, because I feel like in our church, or in the church as a whole, we over spiritualize everything. You can be going through depression, or you could be going through a difficult season in your life, and all people are gonna tell you is like, just have faith, trust in the Lord, trust the process, and
Trust the process.
God's gonna bring you out of this. But like sometimes in that moment, bro, like you're not expecting it. You're not expecting things to get better. You're like, have faith in God, but yes, I'd love to have faith in God right now. Like, we say these things like, I want to have faith in God right now, but I'm just not there. And I feel like that's okay. I think when we tend to over spiritualize and we try to, pray things away, we in a sense, again, I think we're prolonging the inevitable. I don't think we're processing what we're actually going through and asking questions, kind of like what we talked about at book club that one time, right?
Yeah.
Where we have to ask these questions.
What are you feeling?
What am I feeling? Why am I feeling this way?
How is it affecting me? How does the gospel intertwine with what I'm feeling?
Yeah.
What
does the gospel have to say with what I'm feeling, right?
Yeah.
And I feel like unless we go through this not so much rationalization, but this thought process when we're actually trying to get into the nitty gritty, like, yo, you know what? I'm dealing with ish right now, but why am I struggling right now? Why am I hurting? Why do I feel overwhelmed? And asking those questions, you get to the root of the cause. And I feel like until we do that, we're gonna continue to deal with stuff, and it might end up being in the most unhealthy of ways.
Yeah, but taking those steps is so hard, bro, and that's the reality. And we talked about this a little bit, right? Is we know that there are people out there who care, right, about us, and we both know we have individuals who care about us deeply. But why is it that we find it so difficult to just open up to these people? The first people I think about are my parents. Right? Like, I know all they have is the best interest for me. They love me, right? They've shown me time and time again, right? And they always call me and they're like, hey, Joseph, how you doing, right? So why is it that we find it so difficult to open up even to the person that loves you the most, right? And here's the thing, because I also think about this in the Jesus sense. Like, yeah, we open up to Jesus, but are we actually opening up everything we feel to the person who loves us more than these people here on earth, right? Are we actually giving him all, or are we holding back? Because as much as I know my parents, but sometimes I just don't want to tell them. And they've lived a whole lifetime of experience, and I'm sure they can help me.
Yeah.
But why do I have this need to hide what I'm feeling?
I think there's a level of shame and fear of disappointment.
Fear of disappointment.
And here's the reason why I say both. Shame, because I feel like in any household, especially within your family, there are certain expectations. And it's not that they're putting the expectations on you, like you have to be this way, you have to be successful, you have to have it all together, you cannot mess up. But it's more like there are these false expectations we have put on ourselves, and we make our parents or our loved ones the reason why we do so, in a sense.
Okay.
Like, in other words, like, it's not so much that they're putting the pressure on us, but we make them the root of the cause for why we put that pressure on ourselves.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Better way of explaining it. Good job.
Thank you.
Yeah.
But then fear of disappointment is just, again, like the expectations. I hate the feeling of when I've made people that I care about, disappointed in myself.
Disappointment, man. Oof, that's my thing, bro. Like, disappointing my parents is definitely or even my friends, right? It's the biggest, like, what's gonna hurt me? That's gonna hurt me the most. that is that feeling of like, oh,
Like I let you down.
I let you down. And that plays into it of how of like, it's another barrier that you have to go through when you're trying to deal with stuff.
Yeah. And honestly, man, I feel like, man, and this is like us like being real, is like being a pastor, being in ministry, there's that expectation that you have to have it all together.
Bro, they see our lives, they'll definitely know we don't have
Right?
it all together, bro.
Like that's the thing, we usually we put on events, we preach, we spend time with people,
A lot of time with
and
people.
we smile through it all. And I feel like a lot of the times we take the mindset of fake it till you make it.
It's that stigma, bro, right? And we learn about it, right? Even through in our classes. Like, it's not like they say it, but you need to be the rock, right? You need to be, of course, you have that relationship with Jesus, and there's a lot of other stuff that goes into it to help you have that foundation. But yeah, like even on bad days, you don't want to show that you're having a bad day. People ask you, how's your week, right? You may say, oh, I was long, it was a little bit tiring, but you don't say, oh, you know what, this week I was struggling.
Yeah.
When have you said that to a member, dude?
I don't think I've ever said that.
Yeah, we don't do that because we have to make sure that we know what we're doing. We're strong all the time. That we're understanding that we're doing our job well.
Yeah. And again, I think a lot of it just has to do with the fact that we over spiritualize. And it's even worse because you have that expectation, like people have this unrealistic expectation that, what, the pastor has to have it all together. He's the one who's always connected to God. He's the one who has this super amazing spirituality, and it's not always the case, right? There are seasons that, we go through at different times. And the thing is, like, again, imagine how much worse it is for someone who doesn't handle holding it in well.
Yeah.
And so because of that, I feel like, I gotta tell the people out there, like, have some love, have some patience, have some compassion to your pastors, because you don't know what they're going through.
Yeah. Fake it till you make it, right? And here's the thing also as well, like, it's just that we do know God plays a huge role in our life. And he does, and we constantly try to work on our relationship with him every day, and we know he's there. And that's why we're able to get through it, and that's why a lot of our church members, our family, they're able to, because even though, like, we say, like, God, do I trust you, like, we, like, deep down, even like deeper down inside than we talked about before, we know that he's there, and we know that we're gonna get out of it. But it's just that, dude, in those moments, it just seems like such a far thing. Like, it's so far away, right? Like, I know, but why does it seem like he's over 1 billion miles away and he's just not right there?
And I think it's also like you expect when you come closer to God that you're always gonna feel better.
Yeah,
you expect, like, when you come to God, it's like, all right, you're good, it's like, this is the remedy, let's pray and it's gonna go away.
It's gonna be easy for me to wake up early and read my Bible, and like, I'm gonna have this deep relationship. No, it's not like that.
Especially when you're going through it, man, especially on a rainy day.
On a rainy, slow day, when you're tired, you've had a long week, and you have so much other things going on, like with family, perhaps with friends, perhaps with work. Maybe you lost a loved one. It's hard.
It's hard, and then it's hard when you have to go to church and you put on, like, this your happy Sabbath face, like, hey, everything's great, everything's dandy, happy Sabbath.
But I think this is where we look also at the importance of relationships and in people's lives, and right, and having those people who you can talk to, and understanding, right? And I think this is the biggest one, and one that I'm still trying to work on, like, understanding that the people who I know are going to be there for me care about this. Because there are times, and you said this earlier, like, I feel it's not that I don't feel like they don't care, but what does it matter? Why does it matter? What does it matter if I tell them or not, right? This is my thing. This is my stuff. Like, can they really help me? I know they love me, and I know all of that, but does it matter if I tell them?
I think it goes a little more than just telling them is nice, but I think it's just knowing that someone's there for you. Someone cares about you. Like, you don't have to go through it alone, you know? And I say this because I see it in scripture, right? I see this story in the Bible that kind of stands out to me. And a lot of, who knows, I don't know how many people are actually familiar with this story, but I think when I stumbled on this text, I was like, you know what? I relate to this guy so much.
It's powerful.
And I'm talking about Elijah. And so for those who don't, you know, necessarily know about Elijah, Elijah was this prophet, and, you know, he challenges the prophets of Baal. So, you know, Baal was this false, this idol, this false god.
Who took over like the Israelites'
Exactly.
land. And they were just, you know, they were worshiping him.
Yeah.
Right? They were worshiping him, you know, pagan gods, and not worshiping the one true God.
And so Elijah ends up kind of just challenging, like, hey, yo, let's put your God against mine, kind of, and let's see who wins. And so, you know, at the end, Elijah shows, like, God shows up, and Elijah's so confident, like, yo, you see, this is my God, right? But it's interesting, though, because, again, we go through seasons in life. We go through those moments where, you know,
we have that high for
we
God.
have that high. We're like, man, we're so good right now. We're untouchable. Like, God's got us, and everything's good.
Like, imagine his high, bro. Literally, he asked God for fire, and it came
and
down.
it came down.
You know, and the prophets from Baal were like hitting themselves. They were praying, they were singing, dancing, and nothing happened.
Exactly.
You know, like that's as high as you can get. The fact
Yeah.
that you called on God to do something, like,
and he shows up.
And he shows up.
And so at that point, like, he's feeling great until he gets the news that Jezebel, Queen Jezebel, right?
Who's the queen? Yeah.
She ends up saying, like, watch, if, like, I'm gonna get you, Elijah. Like,
I'm gonna get you.
I'm gonna get you if by this time tomorrow I don't have your head, right? And
that's
so,
scary, bro.
Imagine, like, that's the greatest death threat, you know. And I think at that point, you know, Elijah's freaking out, but he runs. It's interesting because he runs away. He's freaking out. He starts crying out, like, God, you know what? You know, I've gone out in the name of your, like, in your name, and I've done all this stuff, but the prophets of Baal are overwhelming. You know, all your prophets have folded. I'm the only one left.
Yeah, and even before that prayer, there was another one, right? That he says, like, Lord, take me now.
Yeah.
Like, I'm done. Like, I'm done with my life. Like,
Like,
please, I've done everything. Like, just please, Lord, take my life. And that was before that prayer.
Yeah, and that's a very suicidal thought. It's like,
Yeah.
God, like, I can't handle this. Like, just kill me now. Yeah. Like, this is too much for me to bear. You know, and it's not to say, like, and, you know, some people go through this same thinking. I haven't gone through that same thinking, but I have felt those moments where I feel insanely overwhelmed and I feel like I'm the only one going through it. Mm-hmm. But what's so interesting is what ends up happening in this story. And it's so powerful because at that point, there are some interesting things that I see because an angel appears to him and he puts him to sleep. Mm-hmm. You know, and here's what's so interesting because notice this, when we process things, we do things that kind of make things worse sometimes.
Like going to sleep?
No. Well, yes, actually, you think I'm kidding, but
no, I know. That's
right?
what I'm saying.
Because think about it. A lot of the times when we're depressed, we listen to depressing music. Why? Beats me.
You got that sad playlist, bro.
Right. Everybody has that simping playlist, you know, like where they just, they're in their feels and they're like, oh, my life, you know. Yeah. But what's so interesting to me is if you're already feeling bad, why would you listen to something that would make it worse?
Yeah.
Because, I mean, but obviously there is that sense, right, that you're listening to something that you can relate to.
Yeah.
But I feel like unknowingly what you end up doing is you just go more and more into your feels.
Yeah. You make your heart, you know, you're like, oh, yeah, I can, yeah.
Yeah, right? Dang, we're already getting in our feels, right?
Yeah.
And so what ends up happening as a series of things happen, the angel puts him to sleep. So he gives him sleep. He gives him food. And then he sends him on a 40-day hike. Mm. And I just want to highlight this because, again, we don't always deal with things well. Mm. And I think some of the big things that we need to do is we need to make sure that when we are going through stuff, right? This is not a heal all kind of thing, but You know what? If you're sleeping in too much, that's bad. If you're not getting enough sleep, that's also bad.
If you're not eating well.
If you're not eating well.
Yeah.
Like if you're only eating a meal a day, imagine like it's only gonna get worse for you.
Yep.
We're
And then
hangry
especially
people.
if you're eating junk food.
And if you're eating junk food, Joseph,
What, bro? That's like once in a while,
you
bro.
gotta lay off the Sour Patch Kids.
I love Sour Patch Kids though. They're comfort food,
Oh,
bro.
man.
But no, yeah, you're right. And then you also have to, make sure you just be healthy. Go
Yeah.
out on a walk, right? Go to the gym if you can.
Yeah, give yourself, I feel like you just got to give yourself time to heal and process, because again, what's so interesting is what happens in Elijah's story is he ends up becoming so overwhelmed by this. He's crying out to God, God, I'm the only one left. I'm the only one left, right? And so oh man, this is the thing that I love is, God tells him to go out. And so Elijah stands there and it says, the Lord passed by and a mighty windstorm hit the mountain. It was such a terrible blast that the rocks were torn loose, but the Lord was not in the wind. After the wind, there was an earthquake, but the Lord was not in the earthquake. And after the earthquake, there was a fire, but the Lord was not in the fire. And after the fire, there was the sound of a gentle whisper. Were you gonna say something?
I was, but I was gonna do like a whisper voice, but then I'm like, oh no, never mind.
Oh man, but no,
I'm sorry.
No, you're good. You're good, bro. That's
I was actually.
that was actually funny because I saw your face and I wasn't sure. But no, but what's so interesting is I feel like sometimes we end up expecting God to show up in a big way.
Yeah, and sometimes it's just that voice, right? And it's just. And here's the thing: we have a problem listening.
Yeah.
We have a problem listening. That goes for me too. Like there are times where, I ask God constantly, God, just let me hear your voice. But am I being an active listener?
Well, because I think what we end up doing is, and this is how like our prayer lives are set up, is we are constantly talking to God, but we never let God respond.
We don't take that time to let him just.
And I feel like the reason why is, again, we don't know how to sit in silence. We don't know how to just take. When was the last time like you actually sat down or kneeled down in prayer where you didn't say anything? You didn't have a thought. You just allowed yourself to listen.
It was like a month ago.
Right? Like we don't do it often.
Often, yeah, no. And I went out, my senior pastor and I and we went out to Eastlake back in the back by the mountains, and he's just like, let's just pray. And I like, all right, and like I just sat there and it was in silence, and I appreciated that, and I was like, wow, I need to do this more. And we've talked about doing it more, and I think for everybody out there, I think it's something that you should do. Go find a place that there's no sound, just be by yourself with God, and I promise you, it just opens up new ways of thinking. Not opens up new ways of thinking, but you're able to come at peace with some things for sure as you're there in that moment.
And it's not to say that we're minimizing, because again, we don't want to minimize what we go through. I think the big thing is we just can't ignore it. Yeah. We can't allow ourselves to be overtaken by all these feelings that we may have. And the reality is, I think sometimes we just need to slow down and allow ourselves to feel. If you're dealing with depression, like, allow yourself to deal with your pain and your hurt. If you lost a loved one, allow yourself to deal and deal with that pain. But because again, at the end of the day, and this is where I think I'm a firm believer on this, is like, it's okay to not be okay. It's just not okay to stay there.
Yeah. And I just want to give like this disclaimer. Kevin and I aren't like psychologists. We're not therapists. No. We're not any of that.
Absolutely
this is
not.
Just our journey, our way of thinking, how we get through stuff.
And this is us saying, like, you know what? We don't have it figured out.
Nope.
We're dealing with our stuff right now.
Right now.
Literally right now. Both of us are going through our own ish. But I think at the end of the day, the reason why we're talking about this today is because it's prevalent in our lives.
Yeah.
We could have been talking. I know we talked about how we were going to talk about relationships today, but I feel like, you know what? We've been so overwhelmed by the amount of work that we got going on, the amount of projects that we're working on. We got, school and all that. And you know what? And other factors, but I think I think the importance is just the fact that there's a conversation being had.
Definitely. And I think I want to end with this and the end of your story, right? So Elijah, he goes out and he God tells him, you're gonna go to Damascus and you're gonna go to Syria and you're gonna anoint this person. You're gonna go to Israel and you're gonna anoint this person. Then he ends it like this, right? And then he's like, I have reserved 7,000 in Israel, all whose knees have not bowed to Baal, and every mouth that has not kissed them. In other words, Elijah was saying, God, I'm by myself. I can't do this. I'm by myself. They killed all the prophets. They killed everybody. I can't do this. But guess what? God was telling them there are 7,000 people out there that they love. They have this relationship with me. They love me, and they're going through it as well.
And I think that's what I wish our church would do better at, is acknowledging all of us are dealing with stuff. No one has it perfect. Like, you can show up to church and realize everyone's going through something. And we got to stop acting like everything is okay. And especially, I think the thing that made it so evident for me is just the fact that we're in COVID.
Yeah.
Right? And
COVID made it like big, like what we actually were dealing with.
Yeah. It brought it into light. Like, you know what? We're all dealing with something and we're still recovering from it. And so what I will say as a word of encouragement to like everybody out there, and I think this is just a word of encouragement for us too, just to like build ourselves up more, is find those people in your life that love you, find those people that will support you, find those people that have your best interest and want to help you out. Eat better, sleep better, exercise some more. And at the end of the day, like, if it's still too much, if you're still dealing with so much, like, again, we're not psychologists, but maybe talking to somebody might help.
Definitely talking to somebody. And also this, right? Like, we talked about how that small voice, right?
Yes.
And trust in God. And like, I know we say it and have that faith, right? But, and we talked about, already over spiritualization, but believe it and have it be an affirming presence in your life constantly,
because at the end of the day, faith, right? Oh man, this is good. I think ring the bell. Faith does not mean your problems go away. Faith is the means by which you overcome your problems. And it doesn't mean that by having faith, everything's just magically going to disappear. Faith is the thing that's going to build you up. So when you do go through those things, you will go through hardships. You will feel pain, but you have that faith that is pushing you forward.
Amen.
So
love it, bro.
But I think that's a good place to end, man.
Yeah, we thank you guys, for listening to the podcast today, to the Elevate podcast. We hope you guys enjoyed this talk.
We got real.
Yeah, and if you guys ever, want to talk, you guys can reach out to Kevin and I. We're here for you always.
Or if you guys want to share some love and send some encouragement our way, we definitely appreciate it.
Kevin would really love it because he hates seeing one dislike on the YouTube channel. But no, we appreciate it. We hope that you guys have a blessed week. And, we'll see you next time.
We'll see you next time. Make sure that you follow us on our Instagram at Elevate the Name. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel to stay up to date with all of our content, whether it be the podcast. We got some music stuff that we're working on. That
I'm excited for that.
That's going to be coming out soon, so stay tuned for that as well. Subscribe to our podcast, leave a review, like our podcast, let us know also. But hey, thank you guys so much for joining us today. Thank you so much, Elevate Nation.
And we'll see you next time.
See you next time.